Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salayalo Makwidiri, on your home of humanitarian journalism, Salam Media. I think after a very heavy start to the show, we reflected on some heavy topics, threats made against the Al Azra Mosque, that altercation between Aisha Bacchus and Emma Powell. I think we're going now to turn attention to a story that might uplift, the spirits of all those that are listening and watching for a moment. It's a moment of triumph. It's a moment of solidarity, and most importantly, it's a moment of the beginning of healing. In Cape Town over the weekend, 27 brave final year medical students from Gaza, whose education was nearly erased by war and this ongoing genocide against the people of Palestine by the apartheid state of Israel. Well, they donned their graduation gowns in a very poignant ceremony hosted by the Gift of the Givers Foundation. Their own universities in Gaza still lie in ruins, but through remarkable collaboration with South African institutions like UCT and Wits University here in Johannesburg, these students were able to complete their studies right here on our soil, on our Mzansi. Families joined online, deans applauded in person, and the oath of a Muslim health professional was read aloud, a reminder of the purpose that binds their profession, even in the darkest of times. And joining us now is a man who needs no introduction. He's the founder of Gift of the Givers. He's a humanitarian leader and most importantly, an architect behind so many lifelines in crisis. And those 27 students, Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman, who's joining us via our virtual platform. Doc, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Salam Media. Always a pleasure chatting to you.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, pleasure's all ours. I think a very beautiful ceremony from what we've gathered with the pictures and the videos that came out of it. It was really wonderful to see. It was a culmination of so much work and sacrifices that you guys have put in. And as someone at the center of it all, what is going through your heart as you watch those students walk across the stage with their graduation gowns on and being doctors, qualified doctors?
For me, it's more, what their families must be thinking. Because I mean, those parents have waited 6 years for these kids to finish. Had we not brought them to South Africa, they would have been in limbo. The medical degrees would have been hanging in the air, not being able to be completed simply because of the war that took place and the genocide that's taken place inside Gaza. So to me, it was a multifold, feeling of goodness. If what you mentioned in the introduction, it was in our Zanzi. It's our country that made this happen. UCT, WITS, University of Victoria took the students in with open arms, and it showed humanity and the compassion of our people. It wasn't an easy task because we had to really look at the syllabi, we had to look at the blocks, the disciplines, the languages, the culture, the trauma, the accommodation, the transport, the logistics, blending with other people, different languages, and also understanding how we're going to blend the courses of Islamic University of Gaza and Al-Aqsa University together in what a South African university. All credit to the teams, the deans from both sides, well, from all sides, from the different South African universities and at Gaza, and the course coordinators and the admin staff and people trying to make it work, and even the student reps from the different universities to welcome these kids. It was a fantastic display of South African love, South African Ubuntu, and South African spirit of generosity. Those are the kind of things that went through my head when they were coming to the front to be gowned. And of course, the cherry on the top, they've qualified. But now the next phase, they need to do internship, and that's another challenge. And after that, of course, they have to go back to a country that doesn't exist anymore and to rebuild an entire health system. But at least the year wasn't wasted. Their parents were ecstatic on the line. The dean was sobbing on live on the crossover. It just showed so much of joy and so much of emotion for these kids. So yes, it felt great, to be honest.
No, definitely. I think, just thinking about it and just how much work was put into it. You literally brought together universities, NGOs, donors, and families across borders, across South Africa and across Gaza. Um, how difficult was it to coordinate this academic rescue mission? Because I'm just thinking about it and just how much went through it, and just how many people and how many institutions were involved in making it happen. I'm sure it was a lot of hard work.
Yes, it was a lot of hard work, but I don't want to claim credit for this. It was a collective effort. I can't say we did it. I like to thank the man who actually started it, a guy called Professor Bob Bakery, who goes to Gaza every year. He's a surgeon, he's a retired surgeon. He's the guy who initiated the process. And then with him was another lecturer called Behran Swat and another lecturer, Professor Shoaib Manjra. The three of them came up with the idea. They approached the medical school. Then they came to us. We funded it. We spoke to the donors. And then, of course, we had to find the accommodation, the transport, and a whole lot of other things. But there were many, many people involved. There was just such a willingness from everybody. There's just too many parties involved. Somebody bringing laptops, somebody bringing food, somebody bringing clothes, somebody taking them out, somebody arranging supper and meals at their homes to make them welcome, students taking them out. Everybody got in from everywhere to make it as easy as possible for them. What we couldn't take away was the trauma and the drama playing out in their homes. Their parents are inside Gaza and the bombs are falling. So whilst they are free on the outside in inverted commas, they had the fear and anxiety of the parents on the inside, and that's something we couldn't take away. And of course they were very resistant to psychological support because they have a culture that says it's weak to go for psychological support, especially when other members are going through the same kind of bombing and trauma on the other side. So they can't accept it when others are suffering. It was a very unusual form of altruism that we can't get. It's like we're getting cut here, but we can't go for treatment because they're bleeding on the other side. It's that level of commitment to their own people. So that is the hard part. But in every other case, it's like a normal disaster. You deal with one step at a time, you fix it, you find another problem, you fix it. And that's how we went along. My entire staff got involved. We brought in outsiders. There was a lot of, we had to modify a lot of things within our own organization to be able to deal with this and also deal with the normal things that we deal with every day.
No, definitely. And I think, a few moments ago, you mentioned something very, very important. The fact that many of, these graduates will now return to Gaza, a home that essentially doesn't exist anymore. Still, grappling with a human-induced humanitarian crisis, essentially. How are you and the organization Gift of the Givers and everyone that's involved preparing to support them in their next chapter, not just as doctors, but as survivors and rebuilders, essentially, of a decimated health system in Gaza and just a decimated country that's finding itself in ruins?
Well, we can't do much now. This is total. It's a total blockade. My teams have lost 205 family members already inside Gaza. I've lost the head of my office, and we've lost. Fortunately, the other staff have survived, but their families, 205 of them, have passed on, have been deliberately murdered and killed. So we can't do anything as such. What we have done, one wing of the Shifa Hospital, we've renovated. We had three medical teams, at different tents, not hospitals, but tents, seeing 200 patients a day, with doctors, nurses, and admin staff paid by us. We had a mobile team, in Khan Yunis. As part of health, of course, we provide food, we provide water, we provide medical care. We could do that to some extent, but it's almost completely curtailed now with the current bombing. It's impossible to get anything in, to buy anything inside, or to move around. It's virtually impossible. We do what we can, but not to the standard we want to do. To answer your question, to carry on with all these things, we will need functioning hospitals. But even an ordinary building, a one room will work. So if the things open up, we've got 200 medical personnel on standby to move in. We've got psychologists from Egypt that have been working with the Gaza people. We've been part of one of the groups funding 180 of them. They'll be ready to move in. We've got speech therapists, a whole group of them from South Africa, working with people in Gaza ready to move in. So we have different, because speech therapy, kids have lost their speech because of the trauma. So audiology, speech therapy, simple things like that. Physiotherapists will all be required in multiple disciplines. But the medical students themselves, depending on how they use hospitals, we don't mind funding them and paying the salaries of the doctors while they're rebuilding the system. And once we're back inside there, we're going to select more children to come and study in South Africa from all the different years. It's going to take quite some time to rebuild those universities and and the hospitals. So we'll have to take them out, and then not only in medicine, we'll have to look at engineering, teaching, and other fields also to try to support them from the outside to give them the skills. And whilst doing that on the outside, We'll have to rebuild technology hubs on the inside so they can be online learning. There are groups already ready, teachers, other professionals ready to teach online, psychologists, and a range of people from South Africa and other groups from other parts of the world that have sort of linked up with us. So can look at a technology hub on inside, which we have to build first, and carry on and bring them on the outside. We're also taking care of 4,000 students, kids, not kids, students, kids inside Egypt. Every afternoon in 6 private schools, in the afternoon, they've given us the premises. We got 500 teachers, Palestinian teachers, funded by us to teach these 4,000 children. So at least there's a whole group ready to go back once that opens up, and there's means to teach inside. We've got this 180 psychologists also in Egypt treating out, managing Palestinian patients or Palestinian people in difficulty, ready to go in. So there are mechanisms, but we need the country to open up. And then, of course, support will come from all over the world for infrastructure, for rebuilding, for teams coming in.
No, definitely. And I think that's very, very important that it happens. But you are in such close proximity to those students, those graduates. What are you gathering from them, especially looking from so far away to what's happening in their home country? Is there a need and urge for them to go back home to assist where they can, especially with the newly acquired skills that they have now? What's the general sense that you're getting?
Well, they always wanted to go home to be with them, even in the year. While they were studying, many times it was disrupted. They wanted to go home because they were missing their parents. There was lots of anxiety, a lot of fear. Some parents, fortunately, are out of Gaza, but some of them are inside Gaza. And there's quite a few students who got nowhere to go now. They got nowhere to stay because there's no family on the outside. The family's on the inside. So they can't enter, and it'll be foolish to enter now because we need them to be alive to be able to treat the populations when bombing stops. But somehow this madness comes to an end, and it will come to an end because that's God's grace. Truth will always conquer falsehood, and it will come to an end. And Palestine will be victorious. That will happen. That's the teaching, or Islamic principle. We know that. So we'll have to wait for that day and support them in other hospitals outside Gaza in the meantime. While see, we don't want to lose any time. Because had we waited from October 7th till now, a lot of time would have been lost in acquiring skills. So once you can't get in, carry on acquiring skills. The more skills you acquire, the more trained you will be, the more you'll be ready for your people when you go back inside. And it may not necessarily be all the skills required because all the type of patients may not be the same inside Gaza. They're different in South Africa and other parts of the world. But no harm in learning because they were always learning in any case online, getting an experience from online from other parts of the world. So let us continue with the teaching, build that love for medicine, build that love for humanity. And when the time comes for you to go in, you can deal with the trauma situation and the non-trauma medical situation also.
Mm, 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 mm. I was fortunate to visit the center where you guys were housing them. It was during Salam Media's tour with Yumna El Said. We visited Cape Town, and it was one of those places that we visited because we thought it would be really cool, to have someone from Gaza to interact with them, someone who's closer to home. And I saw a deeply personal touch come from Zohra Sooliman, your wife. She was known as the South African mother to these students. Can you tell us more about her role in guiding and supporting them over the past year? And how was it for her?
Well, she's a counseling psychologist. She's the head of my Careline Counseling Service from 1997. She is very involved in counseling, all levels of counseling, but this is a very special type of counseling. And since October 7, together with other psychologists and from inside Gaza, from the West Bank, from other parts of the world, in South Africa, they've been designing new modules, looking at different treatment options and different therapies because PTSD doesn't hold for Gaza anymore because it's not post-traumatic stress syndrome. This is permanent stress in a war zone, and it's been happening for several years. Some of those kids have been through 7 wars already. So it's a continuous system. So she is very adept, at this kind of situation, not the situation itself. She hasn't been inside there, but, finding ways to deal with the situation, what qualified psychologists, some who've been inside Gaza will go there every year. So the one aspect is uplifting and training and upskilling. Then having a group of psychologists throughout South Africa who are prepared to support the children if necessary. But of course, I told you they're resistant to psychological support. So the third option is motherly support. Teach, speak to them, listen to them. She's on a chat with all of them They call individually and they discuss the issues and problems. They're not so open about it, but some of them are brave enough to talk about it. She's there for
mm,
support in terms of psychology, in terms of being a mother, and then of course in terms of logistics and simple things like, did you like the food? What should we change? They didn't like the apartment. They didn't like this. They didn't like that. These are kids. They're young. Our kids are the same. Except they got the most horrendous situation. We don't. And so, as a mother, they anything they needed, they turned to her. There are other people who were involved also, but she was like the hub where everybody came to, and from them she would redirect them to other people who are on her network.
No, I think very, very beautiful and very, very inspiring. A true definition of what Ubuntu is and what South Africans stand for. Just lastly, before I let you go, this part of the mission is complete. We mentioned that there's a blockade which is making things really, really difficult for yourselves to try and navigate how you assist the people of Gaza at this very moment. What's in the pipeline? So what's the plan? Are there plans to bring another cohort of students to South Africa and make this an ongoing thing?
Yes, but I want to have the joy of getting our teams inside to select the students themselves. We have to make
Mm,
sure, although there's nothing wrong with the students that have come, but quite a few of them are already outside Gaza. We want to bring a lot of them who are inside Gaza.
mm,
Some of them had come out, before they came here, but some were already out before that happened. And there was a huge batch that was about to come out and the border sealed and they couldn't come. So we want to look at different years and look at different permutations because Wits has said from second year onwards, they'll take all years. And I'm sure University of Victoria and UCT will be quite prepared to do that. But we have to be mindful of our own situation in our own country. There's a problem with the health system. There's not enough posts. There's not enough teachers. There's not enough budgets. So we have to find a way of balancing our own system that it doesn't affect us negatively. At the same
mm,
time, still have our spirit of Ubuntu and take care of those that, a country that we identify with in terms of apartheid. South Africa and Israel were the same. They were both in 1948. They both had apartheid. They both, were violent in what they were doing. We've come out of it, and Mandela said we're not out of it till Palestine is out of it. And we're in that phase, so we don't want to harm each other. We want to benefit each other. So yes, medicine, at different levels, paramedics, nurses. They've asked for nurses. They want to train nurses in South Africa. They've asked me for that. They want to train other disciplines, engineering, and some other fields. So yes, we would like to look at all those things and continue the relationship with the universities. And of course, on the other side of the coin, as the university deans and the admin staff and all said, and academic staff, that's a completely new field for them. It's a completely different experience for them that even they're getting upskilled in trying to deal with the various challenges that these kids have and the challenges within our own system. So there's always new learning, new building, new relationships, new experience, and they're quite keen on it. So it'll be mutually beneficial for organizations, for students, and for our universities.
no, definitely. Doc, I'm going to leave it there for now. Really, really appreciate the amazing work that you're doing. And hope we catch up soon. Really amazing and wonderful. I had the privilege, to visit that center in Cape Town and just saw how at ease, they looked. They were joking around, they were playing around, and it was wonderful to see. And I really commend you and your team for the amazing work that you guys did on this project. Really, really wonderful.
And before I finish up, I'd like to thank UCT, UP, and
Yeah.
Vets. They've been absolutely amazing in what they've done. All heads go off to all those guys involved, and they had great challenges trying to get the students into the university. As you know, the attacks are on from the Israel supporters, but they've withstood everything and they've done it and they're prepared to take even more.
No, definitely. Definitely. Doc, thank you so much. Jazakallah so much for going to the video for now. Really, really appreciate your time. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
There you go. What a powerful reminder that even in the face of distraction, hope not only survives, but it also thrives. From bombed lecture halls in Gaza to beautiful graduation halls in Cape Town and Johannesburg. I think these 27 new doctors carry with them not just degrees, but the resilience of a people and the compassion of South Africa, us, a country that opened its arms to them at a very, very dark time. So, yeah, our deep thanks to Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman and the Gift of the Givers Foundation, the universities that were involved. And, there's whole team of people. I was lucky to visit the center in Cape Town and to interact with the students a bit, and it was wonderful to see what Gift of the Givers had built there, and just how much work and dedication went into it. And yeah, I think this is a true and real face of what the meaning of global solidarity looks like. And yeah, to the Gaza class of 2025, South Africa is proud to have been part of your journey. Go home as healers, as symbols of hope, and most importantly, as reminders that education can never be erased by war. Yeah, beautiful moment. Beautiful, beautiful moment and very heartwarming. Stay with us. More is coming on Salam Media, on News and Views, right after this short break. We're still dealing with Gaza, and we're going to get a voice from Gaza, hopefully, someone that's still there, and they're going to share with us just in real time the lived realities of what the people in Gaza are currently going through and how us, the international community, should be reacting to it. So more on that after this.